Can I start? Ah, there we go. I'm back. There's a voice in my head, and it's my own. It's quite disturbing. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I hope we have the people back online, and thank you very much for the people back in the room. I will go back to the housekeeping rules just quickly again for you. For the people online, remember, you can ask questions on slido.com. It'd be great to get some questions. I see our voice of the panel of the online participants isn't here yet, but I'm sure she will be in a moment. Yes, so please remember on Slido to put your name and your organization and who the question is for. And for the people in the room, we will have microphones and we will do the same as what we've done before. A reminder that this is being recorded and will be made available on YouTube afterwards. So now we're on to session 3. Oops, I've lost my pen. Okay, so session 3 is about an engaging and inspiring, how do we engage in engaging and inspiring Ocean Decade? So that is what we're going to be talking about now. And we're going to do that by going straight into a panel discussion. And we do have 4 panel speakers. I think if I can ask Maria Carmen to come up to the stage, and you can probably sit in the middle chair. So if I sit on my chair, you can sit next to it. That'd be great. And we have 3 online speakers who, I think, no, hold on, I'll go back. 3 online speakers. Oh, there we go. They are there miraculously. Okay, so quick introductions. Dr. Maria del Carmen García-Martínez, who is, it's a very long name, who is a scientist and is from the IEO in Spain and is the chair of our European Marine Board Communications panel. So welcome with us here in the stage. And then online we have Marian Paiu, sorry if I mispronounce your name. He's the executive director of Mare Nostrum in Romania, who joins us online. And we have Mr. Fietzek, who is also joining us online. He is the business development manager at Kongsberg Maritime in Germany. And finally, we have Dr. Elisabetta Balzi, who is the head of the Unit for Healthy Oceans and Seas at the DG RTD. So welcome, everybody. I will go and sit next to Maria Carmen so that at least she's not sitting there by herself and I can be comfortable. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. And there we go. We also have the speakers so that I can at least see you. Very good. So we're going to start off by, I'm going to give everybody a quick 2-minute to introduce yourselves and just give a quick overview. So I'll start with you, Maria Carmen.
Okay, many thanks. So many thanks for having me here. And congrats for doing this meeting in this remote way, in person and online. As Sheila said, I'm María Carmen García. I'm a researcher from the Spanish Institute of Oceanography. And recently, since mid-October, I'm the new director of the Oceanographic Center in Málaga. So I'm living now crazy days. I'm getting used to my new position. But I'm a researcher, as I've said before. I work in the climate change, Mediterranean climate change group, and we specifically are devoted to the marine monitoring, observing our seas and trying to detect changes and trends. But I'm also a communicator because I think the science we do must be in some way returned to the society. So I'm really compromised with communications, so that's why I'm here as the chair of the European Marine Board's Communications Panel.
Thank you. All right, and then online I'll go with, I've lost my space. I'll go with Marian first.
Hello, everyone. Hope that you can hear me. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you, Sheila. As you were kindly introducing, my name is Marian Paiu, and I'm currently Executive Director of Mare Nostrum. I have 1 month of this, so like the previous speaker, I'm getting used with this position. Mare Nostrum is an environmental organization in Romania and is focused on the Black Sea ecosystem protection. So one of my passions are cetaceans, dolphins, porpoises, and whales. and have been studying them in the Black Sea and Mediterranean Sea for the last 11 years. So the latest success under European Commission, DG Environment, and the Agreement of Conservation of Station of the Black Sea, Mediterranean Sea, and contiguous Atlantic area, the ACOBAMS agreement, financial support. The two initiatives were ACOBAM Survey Initiative and CHENOPS project, which covered the two seas mentioned before and provided historical data on abundance of and distribution of cetacean species, and not only. And it's important to underline that also throughout these initiatives, the communication action was very hard to achieve, or at least not on the level that we want. And the discussions today probably will bring out some of what we encounter. So I encourage those of you interested on the subjects to check the CHENOPS and .eu and acobams.org websites for more information. And in respect to our panel topic, there are two sister projects now rolling in the Black Sea, DOORS, developing optimal and open research support for the Black Sea, and BRIDGE project, which would inspire, engage, and enroll the stakeholders from simple citizens to researchers, private companies, and authorities, not only from the Black Sea, but all over Europe, towards sustaining the ocean decade. So, thank you.
Thank you. And next, Pierre.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the invitation and the introduction. Pity that I can't be with you, but I'll try to give my best from my desk here. I'm a physicist by training, followed my interest for the sea and everything that lives in it after my physics studies. Started then in a small company developing sensors, finally became the technical director of the company, and then shifted to Kongsberg Maritime, where I'm now, as you said, business development director for ocean science equipment. And this is all I want to say about my person. I would rather continue the introduction with the statement that I think the decade came just at the right time, especially if we look at ocean observing. We were at a point in time where academia and science underwent ongoing consolidation and harmonization to a good extent. We saw more structuring and more organization happening with technology readiness level, with fair data principles, with essential ocean variables, etc. But we also saw that industry started to change from an industry that enabled data acquisition with sensors, with platforms, now more to an environment that also supports data exploitation with services. And now companies offer either the full value chain or just parts of it, but there is also the new blue economy, which just focuses on the data. So we see there is a lot of things happening. And this also extends towards the societal layer. We see that there is a growing importance and environmental awareness. We see this, and ocean plays a key role in there, obviously, with food as a food source for transport, etc. But we see this in things like Fridays for Future, like the Sustainable Development Goals, like the United Nations Global Compact environment, which addresses industry and their sustainability ambitions. And of course, last but not least, the decade. And I want to close this introduction by saying that we aren't there yet. The ocean observing environment should be more established, get more matured, and get a mature market by itself. And in order to get there, I advocate for enhanced collaboration between academia and industry. We should aim for ambitious projects. We should aim for initiatives to improve communication, because ultimately, there is no competition between academia and industry. Academia aims at a societal impact, aims at knowledge generation, whereas industry aims at an economic success and more and more embraces sustainability aspects. So we got distinct sectoral strength, and this is a good basis for various win-win initiatives. So for me, the decade is a very good tool, but not a self-purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I completely agree with that. And finally, Elisabetta.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Good afternoon. Many thanks to Sheila and to the European Marine Board for inviting us in this very timely and very strategic discussion on supporting the ocean decade in Europe. So I'm Elisabetta Balzi. I'm working at the European Commission at the Research and Innovation Directorate General. And our unit is in charge of managing the European research and innovation for healthy seas and oceans, mainly through the European Framework Program for Research and Innovation, Horizon Europe. And I would say this discussion is very timely also in view of two major new strategic initiatives that we are supporting together with our colleagues across other Commission services, and in particular DG Mare. And the first is the mission to restore our ocean and waters by 2030. And where you will hear that there is a very important dimension of mobilization and engagement. So this discussion is very welcome and very timely for us. And the second important initiative and strategic that I wanted to mention, also part of Horizon Europe, is a partnership on sustainable blue economy, which is also, I think, very relevant to this discussion. So I'm looking forward to the discussion, and I would also like to congratulate the European Marine Board for becoming an Ocean Decade implementing partner, which is indeed a key.
Thank you very much. Yes, we're very happy about that. So I'm going to start off with Maria, because you haven't spoken for a while. My first question is, how can we reach a wider audience when we're communicating about the ocean and about the Ocean Decade?
Well, that's a really tricky point about communication. Well, I would like to first to do a reflection. Mm-hmm. Why do we have an ocean decade? Why don't we have an atmospheric decade? We don't have it because we are atmospheric animals, and we understand where we are. Mm-hmm. We need to understand the other part of the world, that is the ocean. So that's the reason why we have to turn our eyes to the ocean, and we have to engage the people. Mm-hmm. To understand that the ocean is really important and that our lives depend on them. They regulate the climate, for example. They feed us. There are lots of people, thousands of people that live from the ocean. The daily life is from the ocean. So we have to turn our eyes on them, on the oceans. That's the reason why we have it. Why we have an ocean decade, because we have to understand our seas. And we have this fantastic umbrella that is the ocean decade, but people that have been working for years, communicating, we have been doing this, but now we can do joint efforts. And the question is really difficult, is how can reach more people? Mm-hmm. Maybe we can, me as scientist, maybe we should change our way of speaking. This morning, I think something similar was said. But for example, me and my colleagues from the European Marine Board's Communications Panel, we are in charge for the organization of the Locomotion. Locomotion is the only conference entirely devoted to marine communication. It's very, very interesting. It's every 2 years. Next one will be in 2022. And there, in 2018, we had a talk. I don't remember exactly the name of the journalist who came there. He was from the BBC, and he said something incredible. For me, it was shocking. He was saying, you have to change the way you speak. For example, many of us, for sure, we are researchers, and he asked us, why do you say water column? For us, it's obvious, but not for people. So we have to find a new way of explaining our job. Mm-hmm. And we have to find new tools. Maybe the initiative, the program that James presented 1 hour ago, the Embracing the Ocean, is a very good initiative because we are trying to use new tools to reach the people through ads. We have social media, really important. It would be fantastic if we could engage some celebrities, as was said this morning, or influencers, or so on. But what we really need is to prepare very, very good content for those social media. And we have something very easy, that is the sea. It's fantastic. We have great images like this morning you have shown us. So it's very easy to have good images, good videos, but we need very good content and very tricky messages, short messages to people understand the importance of our oceans.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think you're right. We definitely need to improve on how we communicate in that sense. Okay, my next question is for Marian. And the question is, in Mare Nostrum, what kinds of messages have you found that work very well to inspire people? You know, if you think of all the things that you guys have communicated of what's the ones that have inspired the best?
Yeah, as Maria was mentioning, it's hard. As an NGO, for the last 27 active NGO, we brought delicate marine subjects to the citizens and engaged them throughout awareness campaign mainly, so dedicated to public and specific to students and teachers. We were working a lot of these components of the society. How we have do it, establishing newsletter and topic-related initiative groups, for example, social media channels are just some of the examples that we reach citizens in order to first literate them, because as the example of the column water, we really need to literate citizens towards the terms in research in order for them to acquire more knowledge and to be better informed and to understand the concepts. Then second, giving them to the support or to their initiatives. So once people understand the issues and they are trying to do something about it, they need to have some support behind them. So in this way, the NGOs could help and were helping. And not last, to back all these initiatives. Also, throughout ocean literacy approaches, formal and informal education and awareness raising tools, for example, and measures for ensuring equitability, physical access to the ocean, also this can be achieved or changed. And frequently, we focused on press releases, dedicated social media posts, and even videos. We found out that in these times that we are living, short messages and video messages are really giving more insights to the people than simple leaflets that we're providing before printed out. And so also we constantly offer detailed information to journalists, for example, also to literate them, and they can in this way better understand the issue and put it in the scene in the right way, because we have a really huge problem in sending one message and the citizens are receiving something else throughout the news, for example. But one viral example, that's sort of speaking, was of a picture of a tour boat of a fish in the Black Sea, which was found with a plastic cap inside it. So these were really that example of 1,000 words, just a picture with something that triggered a lot of citizens in doing something about marine litter, for example. And second, it's important to be part of regional and international platforms, project initiatives, forums, like, for example, is the case of EU for Ocean Coalition, which connects diverse organizations, projects, and people that contribute to ocean literacy and the sustainable management of the oceans, supported by the European Commission, and most of the participants today probably know it, and if not, we should make something more on promoting this coalition. And this bottom-up inclusive initiatives aims at uniting the voices of Europe to make the ocean a concern of everyone. Or, for example, another example from USA, Sustainable Ocean Alliance, which aims at developing leaders, cultivating ideas, and accelerating solutions, platforms which practice capacity building of individuals, networks, and support in action. So there are a lot of channels, a lot of opportunities, and we just need to provide citizens with this, because I'm sure that they are not having this information on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree. I think the EU for Ocean is a great initiative, and definitely more people should be aware of it. And my next question is for Pierre. What role, in your opinion, can the industry play in communicating about the Ocean Decade? Do you think you have a role? And if you do, what do you think would be your role in that sense?
Okay, I cannot answer for the industry in whole, obviously, but let me try to give my perspective here. To directly address the question, I think industry or the private sector could take ocean matters into business life. That might be an environment that is not yet discussing this topic as widely. I mean, the blue economy does, obviously, but the general industrial and economic sector does not discuss it as widely as other sectors do. So the view from an industry perspective in this environment could be very helpful. And I also think that we as industry could further promote sustainability thinking and in general the importance of the aquatic realm for the global economy, stressing the growing importance of the blue and the new blue economy. However, and now this is the twist I would like to bring to this question, instead of communicating the ocean decade, I prefer if we focused on actions, right? If we preferred on actions related to the decade and rather do instead of talk. And the private sector is definitely a major stakeholder in maritime affairs if we think of shipping or now more and more energy production. So there won't be major changes in this sector without partnering exercises and without industry on board. And so the message I would leave here as an answer to this question is, I think that the decade has a great potential to combine A, scientific knowledge generation and sharing with B, commercial sector activities, the mindset and the skills that is available there. With thirdly, dissemination and societal involvement to address the societal need of sustainability and channel all of these three things into ambitious projects that have a longer duration than normal research projects. And I think this is a key aspect of the decade, that we have more time than the typical 4-year period that we see in political environments as well as in funding schemes. And this is what we should make use of jointly as part of the decade.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, if we don't all work together, it's just not going to achieve what it needs to achieve, right? That's definitely true. Okay, and then Elisabetta, sorry for taking a while, but we get to you eventually. So my first question to you is, how will the mission Ocean, inspire non-scientists to engage with the ocean?
Thank you very much, Sheila. And I would like to start by saying that actually the mission, by definition, is a large mobilization and citizen engagement initiative. The mission does have a very important element of research and innovation. It's a core element, but it goes far beyond research and innovation. And we will only be able to implement it with engagement at large, of society at large. Then the mission has 3 main objectives, which are very much in line with the objectives and the priorities of the UN Decade of Ocean Sciences. And so first is to protect and restore marine and freshwater ecosystems and biodiversity. The second one is to prevent and eliminate pollution. And the third one is to make the blue economy carbon neutral and circular. And this across all EU waters, seas, oceans, and inland waters. We address the water system as water as a system, the hydrosphere, and across all different ocean and sea basins around Europe. Now, how we are going to implement that is by using the concept of what we call lighthouses, which will be the sites, the hubs to demonstrate, to develop, and to deploy new solutions to address those 3 objectives. And the lighthouses, again, will call for a very broad participation and engagement of all stakeholders and society at large. We will support some fora and platforms in each of the lighthouses across all different sea basins, and we expect there to have really a very strong engagement of citizens. Second, what I would like to mention is that in addition to those 3 objectives, we have 2 enablers for the mission, and one of the enablers is exactly the mobilization, public mobilization and engagement. This is considered to be key for implementing the mission, as I was saying. The mission actually started itself from a basic assessment that we need to set the connection between the general public and the ocean and water, so that there is actually a disconnect, an emotional gap with Europe's aquatic environments. And therefore, it was recognized that a main enabler is public mobilization and engagement. So we are going to support many activities in view of having this public engagement and mobilization. Just to give you two concrete examples, we will support what we call the European Climate Solidarity Corps, which will be a dedicated support to volunteering and planetary services for youth to engage to restore the health of our oceans. And also, for example, another concrete initiative is the Plastic Pirate, which is the citizen science campaign to involve students and young people to measure and monitor plastic pollution in Europe across rivers and coasts. This is just two concrete examples, but we will have a very broad range of activities that will be supported in order to engage the citizens, who will be the main key players for implementing our mission, which has a very ambitious targets of restoring our waters and oceans by 2030.
Thank you. I don't know if we have any questions from Slido or anybody in the audience. I have a few more questions, but I thought I would stop at this moment to check. No? People are in a post-lunch slump, so I'll keep on going. So I'll go back to you, Maria. I think I'll ask the third question that I have here, because I think it's more, how do we make our science more accessible? I think you you spoke about it a little bit earlier, but
yes.
How we talked this morning about as scientists, we shouldn't necessarily try to do everything. As scientists, you can't do everything. But how do we make the science we make more accessible to say, communicators or other people who can actually take that forward?
That's a tricky point.
Yeah.
Because scientists, this morning was, someone said that scientists have to do research. That's our job, of course.
Yeah.
We have to publish our results in journals, of course. But I think we have to do an effort, trying to communicate. Not everybody has the tools to do it, so we can have teams, we can work with people that are specialists that can communicate our results. How to reach wider audiences? I think we must be creative. We have to do something different. I can put you as an example. I'm really proud of a project I've been working, and we are still working because we have had new funds for it. And maybe some of you will know that is Oceanicas. It's a project devoted in Spain. It was born to enhance the role of women in marine sciences. Our idea was to talk about women, and was to talk to recover the stories of women that have been lost in the history, and we have recovered them. And that was, I'm trying to provoke scientific vocations, mainly in girls. That was our main ideas at the beginning. What was the result? What we started to do was to show the work of the women that do marine science. And finally, it has resulted a fantastic way on showing how is the ocean, and to talk to the people about climate change, fisheries, anything. So maybe what we have to do is to think about creative initiatives. During the lunch, I was talking to a colleague, I think is here, and we were discussing about, for example, citizen science initiatives. I think they are really powerful. But they are focused on people that have some interest. So we have to find a way to reach that people that doesn't manifest that interest. Maybe we should go to new places. We usually go to schools. Maybe we should go to another one. Why not hospitals? Why not jails? Anywhere.
Yeah.
So the ocean, my idea is, the ocean, I'm part of the ocean too. And I want the planet to know that all of us are part of the planet, of the ocean, sorry. And the ocean doesn't begin on the shore. Begins where you are. All the actions you do has a response on the ocean. And let me tell you something for just 1 minute or two. In last conference of the parties, not the last one, The previous one was held in Madrid, the COP25. I was there. And there was something like this, the people talking, very important people talking there, and saying very, very important things about the climate change, so really, really interesting. And at the end, there was a turn of questions from the public, and there was a man there sitting. He was dressed like an indigenous, and he said, look, I come from an island in the center of the Pacific Ocean. Some of my neighbors have moved because of the rise of the sea level. So what he said and was exactly this: what you do in this part of the world has an answer on my part of the world. So we are all connected, and we have to find the way to tell the people that we all are part of the same thing. Yeah. And so the answer is to be creative. How? It's difficult.
Well, yeah, I think we need to find ways to link it to other things that are happening. Yes. I mean, talking about the fact that we are all connected. You know, we have possibly fewer people in the room today because of the new variant of COVID that's come out, and that was discovered in South Africa. But it has an impact on everybody in the world right now, right?
Yes.
So, and that is showing you just how connected we are. And whether we're talking about COVID or whether we're talking about the oceans, what we do in one part of the world or what happens in one part of the world have the impact on another. So indeed, we need to find ways to communicate that it's no different. The issues with the ocean is no different to the issues with COVID.
Sorry, just a short comment. At the end of that talk in COP25, the final message for me was what that man said. Mm-hmm. Many politicians all around the world, thousands of people there, but the tricky point, the important message was that one.
Yeah, yeah. And it's always a single one. It's always just one message that gets through. So,
yeah,
for sure. Yeah. All right. So I still don't see any hands raised. So I will go on, and my next question will be for Marian again. Marian, how have you guys with Mare Nostrum reached out to the citizens on ocean matters? I think you mentioned some of them, but I don't know if you have any other sort of how we could engage with a wider audience, maybe.
Maybe it's important to just remind ourselves that today we live in an amazing time in which the messages are traveling at unimaginable speeds, never thought about along the history. So we are really lucky on how we can disseminate the information, the messages. So also due to this, the channels are diverse and rather specialized, targeting specific audience. And specific audience probably should be a term that we need to take in account if we are questioning ourselves if a wider audience with low involvement is better than a targeted audience which can produce a change. And most probably our objective is to produce change and to act. So it's not really important from my point of view to reach a really wider audience, because if you focus your efforts and produce change in a smaller group, this can help you and amplify the results. That's why it's vitally important to properly identify the proper audience for your message in order to raise the chance of success of communications. So you are using press, social media, media channels, movie industry, communication platforms, forums, as I was mentioning before, or public events and streaming, and many others, for just some of the channels that can be used. Making dedicated short videos, for example, as I was mentioning, or infographics. I found out that infographics or info sheets are really have a higher success, because in just a spreadsheet, you have there a lot of information, both visual and also numbers. For example, you are targeting to underline the magnitude of marine litter on the beaches. You easily could include a beach full of trash and then some numbers related to this. And now, because we have also some threshold values for marine litter, you can really give an example of what is the meaning of the numbers that you are putting there. So making short videos and infographics together with this picture that can emphasize your message are really a useful tool to communicate on this ocean decade. It is clear that we as humans during this decade are in a continuous rush, and clear messages are not really easy to find, because people are having their daily problems, daily issues, which makes life hard, for let's say somehow. So we really need to point out those messages which are related to their daily activity. If they found out that the specific action that we are aiming for, it's affecting or not their daily living, for sure will act, will come together with us, and will do more. So it's like from knowledge to action, from action to impact, which is an initiative also used in an agile initiative also used now. So applying more the two concepts of ocean literacy and citizen science, the citizens are empowered to feel part of the process, and the messages will be better received. And as I was mentioning before, we need to remember that there are a lot of projects rolling now, and European Commission is funding a lot of them. And these can be used in order to bring together normal people, citizens, together with experts, specialists, scientists, which can better develop the messages and prepare the key message in such a way that can be understood at any level of education. So in this way, for example, using DOORS project, we could have a greater impact on decision makers. So it should be used as much as possible. And I leave you again with this question: should we reach for a wider audience but with an empty message, or should we focus our message on a targeted audience with whom we could continue the process and really produce the change? So this is for me.
That's a very good question. I think I'm going to take that question and turn it around to Pierre, actually. Pierre, the question I have for you is, what are you in Kongsberg doing to support the Ocean Decade and communicating about ocean matters? And I'm asking that question in conjunction to what Marian was just saying there. You know, if you have do you do that kind of communication where you focus your communication on a specific target and make sure that you have a very focused communication? Is that the way you guys do it, or is that how do you communicate about it, I should say?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. I think I like the point that not everything is for everybody, right? So it totally makes sense to address specifically your audience. And this is, I think, what every company does, right? You aim at your customers. You want to understand what they want. And then you target your product sheets, your marketing material, your entire product material towards this potential customer. Because the standard person on the street would not buy a multi-beam system. I mean, why would he or she? So I think it makes totally sense to be aware of who are your customers and who you want to get engaged, and who is the most energetic contributor to your purpose. I mean, that totally makes sense. And I think this is transferable to science outreach and also policy activities. But to answer your question on what we at Kongsberg do, we contribute to events like this. So I am here to join this discussion. And we have activities on our very top layer, right? So it's about emission reduction in maritime transport. So the very big things like hybrid vessels or electric vessels. So the very big things. But what we also do is more knowledge-based. And this is what the department I'm involved in is doing. So the Ocean Science Department is close to science, as the name says it, but also to the knowledge generation. So we support, for example, 3 endorsed decade initiatives, and actually the names of them are given in the chat. Paula, thank you for posting them there. And one is the One Ocean Expedition, where a very tall sailing vessel circumnavigates the globe. And this is a lot about gathering data, getting information, and then sharing it out with the public and using it for promotion. And there we do not only provide technology, but also the cloud infrastructure and everything that is needed for handling the data and dealing with the data. And others are Marine Life 2030, where it's about the transforming the observation and forecasting of marine life. This is due to our acoustic technology, and ultimately there is the Ocean Decade Odyssey, which aims at getting more platforms providing data into the international data networks. So the modern platforms, new platforms.
Yeah.
So there's a lot we do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you guys are doing great, and it's great to see that you're involved in so many of the Ocean Decade actions. That's wonderful. I am going to ask my next question to Elisabetta. I'm still not seeing any hands raised, so I'm going to keep on going here. Elisabetta, my second question is, are there aspects of the mission that could support and inspire ocean literacy? Are there aspects of the mission that could support and inspire ocean literacy in the Ocean Decade? I guess you answered that to some extent, but maybe you want to expand on that.
Yes, thank you very much, Sheila. And certainly, because the ocean literacy is an intrinsic key element of our mission, as I already anticipated, and we aim at strengthening this connection with Europe, between Europe citizens and local communities and the ocean, in order for them to take ownership of the actions to contribute to the protection and restoration of the oceans. So in this respect, our mission should certainly inspire actions under the decade of ocean science and contribute to those actions. The Ocean Decade, so there is a mutual benefit that we see. The Ocean Decade and its objectives can amplify and feed into the mission purpose. And at the same time, vice versa, the mission can activate and raise the awareness of the international community of the efforts that we are undertaking in Europe in order to make the restoration of our ocean, which is one common goal for all of us. So in order to give you maybe some concrete examples of what we are doing, also in the frame of a mission, for example, we have already established in Europe a coalition, what we call EU for Oceans. It's a coalition of a broad range of active members, from youth to NGOs, scientists, a network of blue schools also, which seek to promote actively ocean sustainability and protection. And this has succeeded actually already mobilizing citizens and youth in these efforts, which is now multiplied thanks to emission activities. And then one final message that I wanted to pass is that, of course, all the activities under emission can only be effective if they are, of course, complemented by all existing initiatives and ongoing work. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are really aiming at structuring what already exists, connecting, amplifying, and facilitating and catalyzing the reaction. So the synergies and the complementarities with what is already happening, it is really key.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we have to all work towards the same purpose there, for sure. Yeah. I think we have only about a minute left. So if anybody, we have a question from the floor, from the online next. Yes.
I have a question from Maria de la Fuente from online. She says, what about language as a barrier to communication? Anyone who doesn't speak English wouldn't be able to get the great take-home messages from this forum.
That's a very good question. I don't know if anybody wants to take that. Do you want to?
I don't know if I've correctly understood.
The question is basically, how do we address the fact that language is a barrier? So, this whole event is taking place in English only. So, and I think for the Ocean Decade, it's at least a lot of it is actually translated in multiple languages. I don't know about the mission, how much of the stuff in the missions will be done in multiple languages. But I know that, for instance, we created a little video at the Marine Board, and it is being translated into multiple languages for the European audience. So I think we have to do that. We can't. We just can't just keep on talking in English or French or German or whatever your preferred language is, because that's not going to help. So I don't know if anybody else has some final words on that. No?
Maybe on this, I can
Yes.
confirm absolutely that also from the mission and the Commission point of view, we are going to translate as much as possible, of course, the main documents. But in addition to that, I would say that the main activities will really happen on the ground locally. And so, for example, the lighthouses, which will be implemented in each of the sea basins, will have a platform and then which will support all local initiatives, and of course in own languages and across all countries and the local communities. So indeed, this is a very important point.
Thank you very much. Well, with that, I think we are officially out of time. We have, however, one more question. Let's have one more question from the floor. We're just going to go over time again. Sorry about that, people. I feel like I'm speaking too much.
Hello, it's me again, Fiona from the Atlantic Youth Ambassadors. It's more a comment about the languages and how we try to, as the ambassadors, we are developing like a booklet for the Blue Schools as well to reach out for the younger generations even, and this is also translated into different languages. So we try to already tackle that problem of languages from an early age on.
Thank you. Wonderful. And with that, I think I'm going to have to thank everybody. Thank you very much to our speakers. And I think we're on time. Well, we're just a bit over for our next panel. So I just want to give a hand to the speakers. Thank you. Wonderful. So sorry about that. But I thought it was good to at least have a few questions there. So in our final session this afternoon, this is session 4. It will be on harmonizing the Ocean Decade activities in Europe. And for that, we have, first of all, invited speaker, Dr. Vladimir Ryabinin, who is the Executive Secretary from the IOC, International Oceanographic Commission of the UNESCO, who is going to give us a speech from there. So Vladimir, I'm assuming you're there. No, I've gone too far again. I'll go back one. Am I going back? Are you guys going back? Ah. There we go. Vladimir, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sheila.
We can't hear you, Vladimir.
Really?
No, you can. We can. Sorry.
Yes, you can.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all good. So, I was sitting in this preparatory room, and we overheard that you were describing the inspiring and engaging ocean, and I think I would like to basically continue in the same vein. Let me share my screen. I hope it's this one. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I have to come back to. So, that's the title of my talk, as it was suggested by the European Marine Board, and I would like basically to update you, ladies and gentlemen, on the decade of ocean science. And I think it's when we have been discussing the situation in the ocean on many fora, basically it was a message of gloom and doom. And my impression is that the situation is really changing towards a more positive attitude, at least. And I would like to say that one important element in that was the deliberations of the high-level panel for sustainable ocean economy that comprised 14 heads of state and government, and that were and who were informed by a certain number of very good scientists. And basically, this group of people who are the highest level decision makers really understood that it was possible to really achieve something in the ocean in terms of producing food, producing energy, closing the carbon gap on the 1.5 degree, so important target of the Paris Agreement, generating more money, fighting poverty, and there are several conditions for that related to basically stopping pollution, completely reconsidering economic approach to the ocean in terms of investment, in terms of de-risking investment, also making it a part of national economy, national accounting. And basically the key word there is sustainable ocean planning or sustainable ocean management on the basis of science. So this is what I think is now changing the paradigms. And in the inclusive economic zones, there will be a possibility of at least of using the science for managing the ocean. And we hope very much this will spill over to also areas beyond national jurisdiction. And for that, a very special science is needed. Science that is not based on curiosity, but the science is really focused on solutions. And that was the idea of for the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO to propose to United Nations General Assembly a decade of ocean science. I think everyone is already aware of the decade, and you are discussing this decade. I will go faster on that element. Would like to say that it's not just any science, but the science we need for managing the ocean. And in the implementation plan, the whole community formulated several qualities of the ocean, including inspiring, engaging ocean, and 10 initial challenges. That means areas of work that are focused on knowing and removing sources of pollutants, studying ecosystems, generating sustainable food, generating money from the ocean under conditions of climate change, understanding the risks, also being able to warn about the risks through multi-hazard early warning system, which requires observations, requires, of course, science, modeling of the ocean, representing the ocean in digital way, so that everyone can do this, not only the most developed countries. So that this brings us to the very important slogan, a very important foundational understanding of the decade, that we cannot leave anyone behind. And this requires also behavior change, also through ocean literacy. So that implementation plan was seen by the United Nations General Assembly in December last year, almost a year now ago. The time really flies. And now, in the result of the first call for decade actions, we have 31 programs. We have 10 actions led by United Nations organizations. We have individually 83 projects, 38 different types of contributions. And all in all, we have more than 350 decade activities. So that is where we are now in terms of the scale of that undertaking. That undertaking is not very uniform. In certain challenges, there are more programs and activities, and certain challenges not. And it is very difficult to coordinate all of that, but I think we created at least inspiration, we created momentum, and the world is now turning towards the ocean. So let me just present to you several, many, but not all, decade programs. And I will just highlighted in red those programs that would be not the traditional programs for the science, how we are used to think about this. Because, you know, indeed, for example, deep ocean observations, knowledge about mesopelagic, modeling of the ocean, studying of different elements of ecosystem, coral reefs. This is what science does and needs to do more. But, you know, this is the traditional way for us of thinking about ocean science. But when we think about underwater cultural heritage, when we think about empathy in relation to the ocean, early career professionals, empowering women for the decade, creating solutions for ocean cities, that is a new science. That is a science that not only kind of natural hard science or exact science. This is, every good science is exact, of course, but in principle, this is very much a combination of natural and social sciences leading towards much more harmonious relations between ocean and humankind. So this is where we are. So in terms of resources that we were able to generate, it's actually not us, it's those programs that are now working together. So in those programs, we already have available more than 800 million US dollars, including also for the coordination. And I would like to say that in principle, roughly 1/4 of the required resources for the next 3 years has been secured and basically was brought in with the programs. So, you know, and this is, of course, it's a huge, well, consortium, huge movement. Actually, we call now the decade as a co-designed movement of enthusiastic scientists thinking about the sustainable development and solutions there. But, you know, if you think about that amount of money and who is involved, then, of course, IUC and many partners, including the European Marine Board, are trying to coordinate that movement. But most of the activities are, of course, national. So we have 24 national decade committees, and they are getting prominence in some countries. Around 20 different committees are in creation, and we would like also to use the experience that those existing committees have acquired to inform emerging committees. And I would like to say also that there are regional developments. The first development actually and the first program happened in the Pacific, then in the Mediterranean, and the regional initiatives in Africa, in Arctic and Mediterranean, Southern Ocean, Western Pacific, and Western Tropical Atlantic. Actually, now I should call it probably Tropical Atlantic, because it also involves the Pacific part. Western, well, so tropical, well, you know, let's say Tropical Atlantic Pacific Ocean. So, you know, and I would like to say that this, of course, is how every international program works. There is international coordination, there are national activities in many countries, and with that, we really need to think that the totality of those activities should be bigger than the sum of the parts, and this is achieved by co-design. And key element of that co-design is the new global stakeholder forum. You know, those of you who participated in discussions on the decade probably saw the first version of the Ocean Decade website. It was not very friendly. I think we're improving. The forum is the central part of that new Ocean Decade website. And, you know, this is an element for you to know each other. It's like LinkedIn. This is also a way of co-designing, meeting with people. And also we anticipate that this element will be facilitating creation of new initiatives for the decade, discussion of resources. So basically, we created a mechanism to co-design the decade and work for working together. So I would like also to say that the coordination structure of the decade is already to some extent functional. There is a very hard working decade coordination unit in the IUC Secretariat. We have secondments from different countries and also from the private sector, for example, from FUGRO, and there will be more secondments. I think this maybe next week we will announce the new composition of the Decade Advisory Board that is now superseding the work from the Executive Planning Group and the Interim Decade Advisory Board. Very talented people will be on board. We have collaborative centers emerging. There will be coordinating offices, and also there will be Decade implementing partners. I would like to congratulate all of us, you, IUC, Sheila, and many other friends who came up with the idea of having a European Marine Board as the implementing partner of the decade. That decision has been taken, and we are now basically, I'm happy to announce that you, ladies and gentlemen, are the implementing partner of the decade, and this is a huge support for the decade in principle. I would like also to say that this co-design requires looking at the different elements of the decade from different viewpoints. We need to understand how this totality of the programs is moving forward. For that, we need to evaluate the success, monitor what is available, what is not available, where are the gaps in knowledge, like an orchestra that has to work in unison. We are looking at those people, those parts that are moving forward, lagging behind. So that is the purpose of the monitoring and evaluation panel. Then also there is a group of people, working group on technology innovation, and those are really innovators, people who bring together totally fresh look. And I think this group of people will be very important in informing about opportunities existing in the world for creating decade programs. The data is central. We are almost ready to assemble the data coordination platform in the working group related to this. And of course, communications remain a center point of the decade. So this is where we are now, and we are moving forward. And on the 15th of October, we issued the second call for decade actions. It is focusing on marine pollution ecosystems, on ocean climate nexus, and the deadline for applications is 31st of January. There will be, please look at the website. I'm presenting you only kind of the tip of the iceberg because there are some other opportunities related to this. You know, we also recognize that least developed countries, small island developing states are not as at the leaders' positions as other countries, so we'd like to support them. So this is where we are. The call is on now, and I hope very much there will be some great applications in the new programs, or also projects that will be then joining the 23 programs out of 31 programs that felt that they could acquire more contributions from different projects. So the decade is evolving, and I would like to say that there will be several, there are and will be several important occasions. One Ocean Summit by President Macron in France, beginning of February. There will be a workshop on the ocean science. Then our ocean conference on Palau, the intergovernmental conference on the international legally binding instrument on biodiversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. It will continue. It will be focusing on science. Excuse me. We will be contributing science to that process. Convention on biodiversity in Kunming. Also, there will be convention on disaster risk reduction, meeting involving philanthropic foundations, and they actually feel also inspired and engaged because, you know, there is now a good platform for them to use their money wisely and with real help to people. So. And of course, this all will culminate in the 2022 Conference of United Nations on the Ocean. You probably remember the conference in 2017 that was really changing the paradigm, changing the engagement of countries, governments, organizations in the ocean. So that conference will be also informed by science, and decade will be an important part of that conference. So, you know, I would like to, this is my last slide. And before thanking you, I would like to bring you back to 2016 to the assessment of the state of the ocean by United Nations, published in 2016. And then there was a statement basically that summarized this roughly 1,000-page document that humankind was running out of time to start managing the ocean sustainably. You know, it was kind of very serious statement, and almost I felt at the time that we are doomed. But my impression is that with help of you, with help of also not only scientists, but also practitioners, also general public, awakening politicians, economy, we are able through the decade to create a transformation of ocean science through the co-design, through bringing in ethics towards I think the science that will be informing our relations in the ocean and making these relations much more harmonic. And this is what the ocean needs, and this is what we need. So this is where we are. Once again, I would like to congratulate you on becoming the implementing partner of the decade. And we all are doing a very important thing for the ocean and for the future of this civilization. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Thank you.
So that's a great summary of where we are. Thank you very much for that. We are a bit over time, but if there's any burning questions from the audience, no. I think it's a great place to be. I think you guys have done an amazing amount of work to get where you are. So, and we're happy to help you make it a success in the next 9 years. So I think we'll go straight into the next panel discussion. If anybody has any questions for Vladimir, I'm sure we will be able to answer it online on Slido if anybody has any burning questions. So our next panel is, hold on, there we go, it's there already. Our next panel has, if I can get the speaker, Annemie, do you want to come up as well? So we have 5 people online. No, 4 people online. No, I think I need to go one more. There we go, 4 people online. Hold on. We have Gesine, Zoe twice. Do you guys have Zoe twice as well? We don't seem to have Gesine on the slide. Zoe, are you going to speak for Gesine today? Is that what's happening? Oh, no, there we go. We have Gesine. Excellent. And somehow we don't have the same slides at the bottom here. So anyway, let's continue on. So I want to just introduce the speakers. I'll start again as I did before. Joining us in the room today is Ms. Annemie Rose Janssen. She's from the Ocean Decade Southern Ocean Task Force. So that's in the audience. And then starting from Zoe Konstantinou, she is from DG Mare. She's standing in for Ms. Andreea Strătinescu at the last moment, so well done. Thank you for that, Zoe. We have Ms. Gesine Meißner. She's the chair of the German National Ocean Decade Committee. I have to look this way because you're 5 on the screens, but now I see it. All right. Then we have Professor Colin Stedmon from the Ocean Decade Arctic Task Force, and he's from DTU, the Technical University in Denmark. And finally, last but definitely not least, is my predecessor, Dr. Niall McDonough. Nice to see you again, Niall. He's the Director of Policy, Innovation and Research Services at the Marine Institute of Ireland and the chair of the JBI Oceans Board. So I'm going to, like we have with the other panels, ask everybody to give a quick 2-minute introduction. I'm going to start with Annemie in the room, so go for it.
Thank you very much. Can we hear me?
Can everybody hear her? Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's an honor to be here and an exceptional opportunity to share our work. So as Sheila said, I'm Annemie Rose Janssen, and I work currently at the Royal Belgian Institute for Natural Sciences. And my role there is to coordinate the Southern Ocean Task Force to develop the action plan in the framework of the UN Ocean Decade.
Thank you very much. Sweet, short and sweet. Then I'll go to Zoe. We'll start on the left-hand side for us.
Hello, I'm Zoe Konstantinou. I'm a policy officer in the Directorate General for Maritime Affairs and Fisheries. I'm working in ocean observation, marine knowledge, and research. And I'm involved in multiple actions that are very much related with the goals and challenges addressed by the UN Ocean Decade.
Thank you, Zoe. And then we have Gesine.
Yeah, hello everybody. Well, thank you very much, Sheila, for invitation. I would have liked very much to be there in person, but it's just impossible. Well, just short, within 2 minutes. Well, actually, I had been in the European Parliament, a member, a politician for 10 years until 2019, and I dedicated already there my life, so to say, my political life to the ocean, and I continued doing so after I did not run again for the next election. And then I was first elected as member of the Mission Board for Healthy Oceans, or as it is called now, Mission Restore Our Ocean and Waters. And then afterwards, I joined the National Committee and was elected as a chair for the UN Ocean Decade. And actually, my mission is to make people love the ocean. And if we really achieve that all together, the Ocean Decade will be a big success. And I hope so with that we can do so.
I completely agree, Gesine. If you get that done for us, then we'll be great. Thanks. All right, next we have Colin.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for the invitation to join this discussion today. My name is Colin Stedmon. I'm a professor in chemical oceanography at the Technical University in Denmark. currently working in the Arctic. But I'm here due to another position I have, which is the center leader for the Danish Center for Marine Science. The Danish Center for Marine Science is a virtual center here in Denmark across all of the institutions carrying out marine research. We primarily fund ship time for oceanographic expeditions. But in the last couple of years, we also had a role in chairing the development of the Arctic Action Plan. So it's an international activity, but someone needed to do the writing and to bring everything together. And we chaired this effort. And that must be why I'm invited today.
Thank you very much. Niall?
Yes, good afternoon, Sheila. Thanks for inviting me to sit on the panel, and good afternoon, everyone. Maybe if I can start quickly by congratulating you also on this event, but equally on becoming an Ocean Decade implementing partner, and also on the launch of your Geohazards Future Science Brief today, which is a really great achievement. So congratulations to you and Gilles and all the team and the members of the Marine Board. So I'm Niall McDonough. I'm Director of Policy, Innovation and Research Services with the Marine Institute in Ireland. My institute is Ireland's National Institute for Marine Research and Innovation. We provide policy advice and scientific advice and services to government across a whole range of marine and maritime issues and areas. I'm primarily sitting here this afternoon, though, wearing my other hat, which is as chair of JPI Oceans. JPI Oceans, I think many of those attending will be somewhat familiar with JPI Oceans, but very briefly, JPI Oceans stands for Joint Programming Initiative for Healthy and Productive Seas and Oceans. We are an intergovernmental platform with 19 member countries from across Europe, and the role of JPI Oceans is essentially to bring together our members, which are national government institutions, such as ministries and funding agencies, to align strategic priorities in marine and maritime research, and really to foster and develop and implement joint actions around generally the achieving a transition towards a sustainable blue economy and fostering a healthy and resilient and productive ocean environment. So it's my JPI Oceans hat I'm wearing this afternoon. I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Niall. So wonderful. So I'll start with the first question for Annemie again. And actually, for the rest of you, it'll be a similar question, but it will be a little bit adapted. So I'll start with Annemie, and I'll ask you, how do you plan to bridge the gap between science and policy at the international scale of the Southern Ocean?
Well, looking at our process so far, I think that we've done quite a good job so far with the Southern Ocean community in starting this whole process for the UN Ocean Decade. And owing to the way the Antarctic works with the Antarctic Treaty, we can already say that the Antarctic community is already a close-knit community. And just looking at our task force, we have representatives from quite a lot of different backgrounds. So we've got scientists, of course, we've got policy, not policy makers, but people who are involved in policy. We've got representatives from CAMLA, from the ATS. We've also got representatives from the business industry. And I think just the diversity of this task force makes it really rich. And we can actually develop an action plan with as much voices as we can. And the Southern Ocean community hasn't only started work towards the decade vision. We have had previous initiatives. I'm thinking here about the SCAR Horizon Scan, the European Polar Net as well, and the whole European Polar Research Program. So I think the Southern Ocean is quite a good example of how we can bridge this, because we try to bring as many people to the table as we can, and our process has been open all throughout, and you can still join us if you want through our website. And a good example of this is, for example, 2 weeks ago, we had a very interesting satellite activity for the Clean Ocean Lab, where we brought together experts on how to achieve a clean ocean in the Southern Ocean. And it was actually for some of them the first time that they met each other. So we're really trying to link all these people together and make the connections, not only within the Southern Ocean, but also beyond, and also with the Arctic and Colin as well, of course.
And that will lead me into the question that I'm going to ask the same kind of question to Colin, because I think it's good to talk about the South and then talk about the North. So Colin, I'll repeat the question. How do you plan to bridge the gap between science and policy at an international scale in the Arctic then?
So the you there is not me. It's hopefully a community. I just want to emphasize that I was purely a facilitator for this process and not a former representative or anything specific. But our current, well, now that we launched the Arctic Action Plan, then the idea was to say, well, so what? We have now a plan, and how do we ensure its fulfillment or even its modification and updating it as it goes? And I think the Danish Centre for Marine Science is not the right host for that. It needs to then be lifted over into something more international. Mm-hmm. And the initial discussions have been with IASC, so the International Arctic Science Committee. Again, that's actually a science-based or research-based organization, but it's one step better. It's international at least, and transcending all of the disciplines, at least, of Arctic science. And Arctic science, for the most part, is very well connected to the ocean. So a lot of the communities living in the Arctic are dependent or live by the ocean. And the next job is actually up towards, if you like, the Arctic Council. So at the last ministerial meeting, the Ocean Decade was mentioned as they welcomed it. We didn't get as far as getting them to welcome the Arctic Action Plan, because it was literally 2 weeks before the statement was being written that we published it. So we didn't make it in, but hopefully for the next Arctic Ministerial, we can not only welcome, or the Arctic Council can not only welcome the Ocean Decade as an activity, but maybe also endorse something like the goals in the Arctic Action Plan, or recognize those. And then I think we've made a step in the right direction between discussions at a societal or at a researcher and policy and stakeholder level towards international policy level. And hopefully there are some other actors maybe in the room here, or at least that would be participating in the Arctic Decade activities that can help do that last lifting into the Arctic Council. But the first stage is done, at least. We have a plan.
Thank you, Colin. And then I'm actually going to go, when you were talking about international ocean governance there, it reminded me that indeed the Commission is doing quite a lot about international ocean governance right now. So I'm going to go to Zoe and ask similar question. How do you think we can bridge, or how do you think we can bridge science and policy at the European and national levels to support the Ocean Decade? And maybe in the context of the international ocean governance.
Well, part of it is for sure the context, the international ocean governance agenda. But I would like to start from a more generic point of view, Sheila, to answer this question. I actually believe that the decade is the appropriate opportunity to bring together a lot of actions and activities that are happening already in the level, at least, of the European Commission. And they underline this effort for science policy interface and bridging this gap. So in the Commission, we have already started working in this years ago in trying to include knowledge-based advice in the way that we develop our initiative and our policies. And now the decade, with the actions that are going to be related to it directly, is going to underline this effort. The International Ocean Governance Agenda is an initiative that acts as an umbrella, not only in the European level, but also inviting stakeholders in the international arena to discuss with us and to allow us to exchange and share capacity in this aspect. And as you know, it encompasses a lot of discussions, as for instance, the discussions around transdisciplinary science and how we can harvest the results of the wealth of not only European science, but mainly what we produce, in order to fuel our policies. it's difficult to discuss about the national level. The national level has other kind of restraints, I would say, but I feel positive that currently, at least in the level of the Commission, policymakers are much more open to discuss with science, and I think that this is the first step towards more positive result in this bridging process. The mission Ocean, which also will change the way that we work in research and science policy interface, will have a lot of contribution in this, both the lighthouses, but also the enablers with the digital twin ocean and the creation of the digital knowledge system, the marine digital knowledge system, will contribute towards this direction. And they will provide the platform for collaboration between science and policy, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, and then I'm going to ask a similar question. We're going down the scales here, more to the national scale, to you, Gesine. Again, how do you think we can bridge the gap between science and policy at the European and national scale? Having worked at the European Parliament and, specifically for the Ocean Decade, how do you think we can do this best?
I could make the answer short and say, if you join our forces and do it together, but of course it was not what you want to hear. Well, actually, at the first point for me is always, wherever I appear, I say that the mission Ocean, or as we call it in the board, Mission Starfish 2030, it's more likely for kids, for example, and the UN Decade have the same aim. They want to really dedicate this decade to the ocean. And at the end of 2030, we want that everybody in the societies in all the countries says, wow, ocean is very important for us. It's not only nice to be there for holidays. We love the ocean. We want to protect it. That's our aim. And that's why I always say we have to do it together and we have to join forces. But now for the national committee, what we do in Germany, first of all, it's quite interesting. Our national committee consists of 11 persons coming from different sectors, from science, from economy, from governance, from society, NGOs, and politics. Politics, it's me as former politician, and we have several working groups in order to really implement the goals of the decade. That's, for example, working group for, again, politics, one for economy, education, media, finance, science, and society. And I just like to concentrate first a little bit on politics, not because I'm a former politician, but maybe you know already that the new designated German government that will will come into force at the beginning of December, 1 week from now, they have a coalition treaty where for the first time in Germany, a marine strategy is mentioned with a special envoy for marine politics. So many things are in there that are really very good for us to implement it in Germany. This is something really absolutely important. We worked on that, of course, but we are happy we have it right now. Written black on white, so to say. The second is economy. We try to have as many contacts as possible to even those institutes and organizations that are not related to the sea, like Siemens, like banks, international banks, and like for example, insurance companies. That's very important to join them. Siemens is on board with us as network partner, and so on. And another thing is society. We have many NGOs that are active in Germany, and that has to be used. Society, somebody who is really active is Rotary, for example. Meanwhile, I became Rotarian just via my ocean engagement. And I know that they have, for example, an international activity called End Plastic Soup. They do it everywhere. They finance it. And in Germany, those End Plastic Soup people are network partner for us as well. And besides, I, of course, told everybody, like the young ambassadors in this morning, they said we have to cross borders. We have to meet other people. I'm, for example, a country girl. So I am member of the Countrywomen Association since since my youth. And so I started to make speeches about the importance and the beauty of the ocean in country women associations. And that is something we have to do. I met scouts, and regarding education in Germany, for example, we have a house of little researchers that they deliver information for the leaders of kindergartens and schools. And that's, of course, a big, big thing for us to do. I am in contact, for example, with a STEM organization, so math and natural science, what they teach. And this is really something we have to do in order to bridge the society and the science. It was said again this morning, we should not do business as usual. We have to think about new ways in order to make everybody informed about the ocean. And that has to be done in a simple way. Mm-hmm. So we need really to translate the sometimes scientific or complicated data from scientists into a normal language in order to tell people what's going on with the ocean, what can they do themselves in their daily life, or maybe by collecting plastic or by telling others or whatever. And that's something we do. Yeah. I think I start here, otherwise I will talk too long.
Yes, thank you very much, Gesine. And Niall, same question, I guess, for you. How do you think we can bridge the gap between science and national policy, but also, how is JPI Oceans playing a role in that regard?
Yeah, I can answer the question both in terms of JPI Oceans, but also as somebody who's working at a national level, because these two things are completely connected. Firstly, I would say it's important. What I didn't mention in my opening comments was that JPI Oceans, like the European Marine Board, is also on the trajectory to become an Ocean Decade implementing partner, and that's really important for us. And my understanding is that we're pretty advanced, maybe just hopefully a few weeks away, fingers crossed, from getting that endorsement from IOC UNESCO. And then again, that will put us in a position to really act in a more formal way in promoting the needs of the decade. So to answer your question, I mean, the first thing I would say is that, as an implementing partner in particular, we are planning and seeking and working already to align the goals and objectives of our joint actions that are managed and run and coordinated through JPI Oceans with the agenda of the Ocean Decade, with the 7 outcomes and the 10 challenges and so on. So, already some of our existing activities, for example, we have a forthcoming call on underwater noise. And I think that links very nicely, for example, with the Marine Board's sort of science policy advice in this area, that then JPI Oceans becomes an actor that can pick that up and actually foster joint calls with investments from national funding agencies of participating countries. And that forthcoming call, which we hope will be launched just before year end, it has already been endorsed as an action under the Ocean Decade, and then we will seek to also link other activities such as our knowledge hubs on science for good environmental status, on sea level rise, and our activity on mining impact on deep sea ocean ecosystems, with Ocean Decade objectives as well. So essentially, we are aligning our activities and reframing our activities to ensure that they also respond and meet the needs of the Ocean Decade. And that will be part of our decision-making process going forward in terms of new actions that we take on. The other point I would make is that aligning and delivering valuable outputs for policymakers and decision makers is obviously something that's been on the agenda for some time, and how we can do better in that area is what I mean. And we are continually seeking in terms of the work of JPI Oceans to improve our efforts in that area. So co-creation is a really important aspect of that. So when we have a topic for a joint call in an area of emerging concern, we tend to be able to move very quickly as an early mover to take on a joint action in something that arises. And we did this, for example, a number of years ago in relation to marine microplastics when the issues were just coming on the agenda. I know from my own experience, for example, in the second round of calls for joint actions on marine microplastics. The terms of reference for that go immediately to the national ministries of all those participating countries who have responsibility, for example, for implementing Marine Strategy Framework Directive, and they feed back into that the terms of reference for that call. And essentially, that's an important element of co-creation. It's not perfect, but it's definitely a critical step, because they will tell you that you can do all the science you want, but if it's not answering my questions, I can't use it. So you really have to work closely with policymakers in order to ensure that you're meeting their needs. So I think we can do a lot more, but we're moving in the right direction towards co-creation, co-implementation, and co-delivery in terms of how we do our science, working closely with those who need and use the outputs. And then maybe the final point I'll make on this, Sheila, is a more general point around science policy interfaces in general. The science policy interfaces are complex things, and they're certainly not linear. They're not unidirectional. It's a two-way or multi-way process, not just a two-way process. And I think there's much more we can do as a community in terms of understanding the dynamics of those processes to assist us in doing better to ensure our science is meeting the needs of policymakers. So science policy interfaces and perfecting them and improving them is a research issue in and of itself. And I think we can learn from existing expertise, but also maybe seek to apply and develop our knowledge base in this area to understand how we can do better. And I think one of the areas that I'll just pick one specific issue, which I think continues and has been an issue for a very long time, is the capacity and the rewards available in terms of, for example, career progression to scientists working in academic institutions to really engage in the policy process. We haven't really cracked that, not resolved that issue yet. I mean, the success of most scientists is still measured by their outputs in respect to peer review publications and et cetera, and various indices around scientific output. But we need to also make sure that the career rewards are there for them to really spend more time to actually engage in the policy process. I agree with the comments that were made earlier. Scientists should first and foremost be doing their science. That's their job. So it's not to say that they need to be spending all their time sitting in rooms with policymakers, but we can do more to incentivize scientific community to actually work better in this science policy interface mechanism. Yeah. Plenty of good work going on, but we can do more. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Wonderful. I don't know if we have any questions from the floor. No? We have about 12 minutes left, so I'm going to have another round of questions, and if you can keep your answers brief, maybe we'll get a question in for everybody. So, Annemie, I'm going to start with you again. What new opportunities do you think the Ocean Decade offers for the Southern Ocean?
Well, quite a lot, actually. The Ocean Decade is an opportunity to underline the importance of the Southern Ocean because people don't live there, and it's only research stations. Yes, we have gateway cities, etc., but no one actually lives there. The Southern Ocean and Antarctica is quite underrepresented at a global scale, and even just when you think of maps, when you see maps of the world or anything, often Antarctica is completely absent from them. But because it is underrepresented, the UN Ocean Decade acts as a platform for us to spread the word, because the Southern Ocean plays a disproportionate role in climate regulation for example, carbon storage, heat storage, etc. So it will be a place for people to meet, because we need those different voices in order for everyone to be able to say what they need, and overcome the challenges that come with that.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask the same question to you, Colin. So again, what new opportunities do you think does the Ocean Decade bring for the Arctic?
So I think the best, well, some of it's been mentioned already, it's momentum and alignment. So having people focus at the same target means that internationally and across sectors, we can actually achieve a lot more, I'm quite sure. So yeah, momentum and alignment would be the biggest one. A common set of goals right across different fields and across different national boundaries, and also oceanographic regions. And then the other goal, I suppose, is also this from the classroom to the parliament, right? So by putting an ocean background in the classroom, maybe for some of the basic STEM activities, we can also count on in 10 years and certainly in 20 years time that when you're doing statistics, you think about the statistics you did in class and it was an ocean example. And the ocean becomes a more natural part of the conversation in all walks of life, but then certainly also in policy. That would be the great success.
Yeah. And Zoe, I guess, I mean, a similar question. Do you think the Ocean Decade will enable some of the work that other than the mission, which is, I think, quite obvious that there's a lot, but do you think that from DG Mare's side, there's a lot that the Ocean Decade can bring that can help you, with your job, your day-to-day job?
So in DG Mare, whatever we do is directly related with the goals and challenges that are identified by the decade. So for us, it's a consolidating opportunity. Everything that we do, from the common fisheries policy, from the blue economy strategy, from the European Marine Observation and Data Network, ocean literacy, blue skills, everything is related. I think that for us, this is an opportunity to bring in more stakeholders in our work, to make it more visible, to underline the importance of the work done for the ocean, and to try to build international collaborations that are going to help us also move a little bit away from the European Union horizon that we already work towards. So I see this opportunity very much, especially, so of course, ocean observation and knowledge is my area of work. And I believe that in this domain, we are going to have a lot of progress made because of the momentum that the decade will create. And I can tell you that we are already planning in order both to put our activities in the service of the decade, but also to take advantage of this momentum in order to advance our work.
Yeah. Thank you. And Gesine, I'll ask you the same question. What do you think are the new opportunities that the Ocean Decade brings for Germany?
Well, actually, we have the opportunity, or we have the mission, so to say, to make everybody love the ocean, to inform the people about the importance of the ocean for all of us in a joint effort. And that is something new. Everybody is talking about the Green Deal and reforestation, but nobody talks about the ocean, the importance of the ocean for the climate, for example, for our air, for our water system. That's all not in the mind of people. And that's what we can change in a common effort. And that is really the thing that thrills me as well, because, people know the ocean is there and they like to make maybe holidays there, to swim or whatever, to enjoy maybe coral reefs or clean beaches if they are clean, but they don't think about blue economy, about blue energy that can be really very important for our future, and especially for the growing population everywhere. We do need the resources of the ocean, and it can only be there for us, the ocean, if it's healthy. So we have to change our life, so to say, and really to be informed about the ocean. Everybody should be informed about the ocean and then love the ocean. And if we could create a big community of ocean friends, that's the new thing we have on the agenda right now. And again, I repeat myself, but I think it's so important to underline is we have to do it in a joint effort. And if we have an ocean community 2030, I would be extremely happy and we would have our goals achieved.
Thank you. And Niall, I guess I'll ask you the similar question. What do you think is the opportunities that it brings for Ireland, the Ocean Decade? I mean, Ireland is probably one of the countries that's the most closely linked to the ocean in Europe, at least. So, do you think it brings good opportunities for you guys to engage better with the citizens?
Yeah, for sure, Sheila. I mean, we are a small island, but we are a large ocean state. We have a very large exclusive economic zone. And we have also one of the few countries globally that has fully mapped our seabed, which is a really big achievement, if you don't mind me saying, and adds a lot of value in terms of the capability and capacity it brings us. I would say for us at national level, looking at what the Ocean Decade can do, first of all, when you have when you have a UN decade, basically, it sounds obvious, but that level of endorsement and support through a UN decade for the ocean raises ocean issues on the political agenda here, at national level, and it makes it easier. The door is easier to push open in politically in terms of trying to get access to decision makers, get things done, get more funding in respect for marine and ocean science. One of the things, for example, that is happening at the moment is that 2020 was the end. I think this is the case the world over for a lot of strategies, national strategies in this case. And of course, we've been in the process of developing, new national strategies in respect of a whole range of policy areas. But of course, the marine and ocean integrated maritime planning and ocean economy, etc., are part of that. So I and my team here at the Marine Institute, we have responsibility for coordinating our national marine R&I strategy. And so basically we act in a coordination capacity across our whole ecosystem to try and align funding at national level to support marine science, which is policy relevant to delivering valuable policy outputs and knowledge. We're in the process of developing our new strategy, and the Ocean Decade now is going to be hardwired into that. I basically say, keep it that simple. And it will be into many other strategies as well. It is really being incorporated into many of our strategic and policy decisions and initiatives nationally. The third point I would make quickly is that it allows us to also engage, a platform to engage with our scientific community. We will also act in a coordinating way to set up an Ocean Decade National Committee, which will be largely a scientific committee initially. But we will let that be led by that committee. We'll just provide support to that process. And so just, engaging with and structuring our response as a scientific community, linking to policy and policymakers will be another opportunity which the decade will give us. And then the final thing I'll say on this is it has given us, I would say, in conjunction with the SDGs, in particular SDG 14, it has given us the opportunity also to spread our wings a little bit in terms of the activity we're involved in supporting international, and when I say international, I mean even beyond Europe, capacity building in ocean science and technology. So at Ocean, Sheila, you possibly don't remember at this stage, back in 2019, I pre-announced a program that we were planning to launch in support of ocean and climate science for small island developing states, funded by our Department of Foreign Affairs, but it will be implemented by the Marine Institute. Unfortunately, COVID stopped that in its tracks, and it's been a very frustrating sort of 18 months. We're now just at the cusp of launching that again, and it will run for 5 years. It's called Our Shared Ocean, and there will be a multi-million euro budget made available to our Department of Foreign Affairs for that program. And that's going to support, a whole range of projects and initiatives really focused on the challenges that SIDS face in terms of adapting to climate change, particularly in relation to issues such as sea level rise, which we're so familiar with, in particular in relation to discussions around COP recently in Glasgow. So allowing us that capacity to work at a more international level and to support those kind of international agendas where they were more difficult previously has been a very important benefit from things like the Ocean Decade and Sustainable SDG 14. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I see we have a minute left. I think we have a question online. Is that correct? Or no? No, sorry, no. You just had your hand up there. All right, so I don't know if we have any final burning questions from the floor or from online. If not, I am going to ask one that doesn't need an answer, but I want you all to think about it. This morning we talked about the fact that well, it was a crazy Sheila idea, of course. What we really need is young, not just young science ambassadors, but young policymaker ambassadors. We really need to have policymakers that are at the same level as a young scientist, that can grow up with them, so that by the end of the decade, we have the policymakers in the room that actually understands the ocean. We don't have to train them up again like we have to do when the Commission changes everybody around. So I wonder if we can try and find a way of doing that. If you guys in the Arctic and in the Southern Ocean, if you can sort of find ways to make sure that you include not just scientists, but actually, you know, law students or policy students or political science students in your groups, so that actually we engage people from a younger time. I think it's really important, because otherwise in 10 years' time we'll just be sitting here and, you know, some of us will be retired, but the people sitting in this chair will feel like, oh my goodness, we missed a chance. So we really need to engage them now, is my suggestion. And with that, I think I will thank you all very much and move back to my lectern. Thank you very much, Annemie, for joining me on the stage. And I think, yes, we'll give the... So thank you very much, everybody. I think we now have the final closing session, if I'm not mistaken, indeed. And it is going to be, the closing is going to be given to us by the Director General for DG Research and Innovation, Jean-Eric Paquet, and he is going to be speaking now. Hold on, no. I've lost my slides. He's going to be there soon. I think we still have Zoe, but maybe we'll have Jean-Eric just then. Is he there? 5 minutes. 5. Hold on. All right. We're holding on. We have a technical issue. So I want to, while we're waiting, actually, can I go? Continue. Yes, while we're waiting, I was actually going to mention earlier, which I'm afraid I forgot, that you see the wonderful screen that we have at the back here with the design. The design for this backdrop is actually going to be our design for all the activities that the Marine Board does for the Ocean Decade, and it has been created by the Arteveld Hogeschool students who are in the room somewhere. Pick up, there we go, sitting in the back there. So they've done this, wonderful. And the Marine Board have been working with them, with the Arteveld Hogeschool every year to create some sort of art or some infographics or something for any of our documents. And so they are actually doing that for us, and I think they did a great job. So, and we will have a video from the forum. And I see Jean-Eric is there, so I will shut up and move away. The floor is yours, Jean-Eric.
Sheila, thank you. Sheila, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for the invitation and for allowing me to share a few considerations at the, I think, end of your session. But you already, I think, heard Elisabetta Balzi explain the ongoing work in research and innovation, supporting ocean and marine research more generally. I would like to put it, and I'm sure this was discussed during the board meeting, in the broader context of EU policies. I think research on marine and restoring the quality, the cleanness of our oceans is very much at the heart of Europeans' green transformation, well identified from the outset in the Green Deal strategy of the European Union, which is now being progressively put into place with legislation, obviously, notably the CO2 reduction related legislation, but also with a number of more specific strategies, notably the biodiversity strategy, which aims at bringing together actors across Europe to make a difference on the ground by 2030. And for example, in the area of oceans, we hope to see by that date 30% of our coasts being protected areas. It would be a significant increase, where with at least 10% of strictly protected areas. And this will no doubt have impact on biodiversity. This is very much, in terms of targets, also based on science and knowledge from science, which has demonstrated that protected areas can have an immediate and long-lasting impact on the biodiversity, the quality of our waters. We also have, and I'm sure you are well connected to it, the Zero Pollution Action Plan. And here again, one very specific target for 2030, which is to reduce plastic litter at sea by 50%. And also to have at source a real effort on reducing microplastics by at least 30%, and that will no doubt also have impact on seawaters, and will have the objective of reducing nutrient losses from fertilizers and the use of chemical pesticides by 50% also by 2030. I mean, these are targets which are ambitious. They are absolutely needed also. And I think the work done by yourselves as scientists in the context of the IPCC, but also very much supporting the ongoing science basis which is being built up for COP15 on biodiversity, is really propelling public action at European level with that knowledge, setting out the need for these targets. So that's, if you want, the broader backdrop against which research and innovation policy is carried out and prioritized. I think I would probably want to add here that after Glasgow and also after the IPCC report, again, some of you have directly contributed to it. Beyond a number of findings, what is, I think, particularly striking in the report is, on the one hand, of course, the data on sea level rise, data generated by many European research infrastructures like the Argos infrastructure, where Europe has a major contribution to make, is also the data which is also now emerging on the acidification of our oceans linked directly to climate change, and the limits, I think, which now are also quite obvious of how much our oceans can absorb CO2, with a lot of data again in the IPCC. All that has brought leaders, of course, particularly European leaders, President von der Leyen, underlining in Glasgow that we all, not all, many have now at long last confirmed a date for climate neutrality, many by 2050, aligning with Europe, some a bit beyond. That is good. But what is today more important, including in your work, is that there is impact and results as we move towards 2030, and real impact and CO2 reductions by 2030. This is Europe's ambition with the 55% reduction target by 2030. But I think what we need is more science, but also more deployment from science and research results, technology, but also social innovation to indeed ensure that our societies, economic actors, local authorities can effectively accelerate the needed changes to ensure that by 2030 our footprint on CO2 and biodiversity, environmental degradation, that this starts to be reduced visibly, tangibly in Europe, and obviously in the context of the UN decade, that these outcomes can also help others move more ambitiously forward. The urgency, I think, is so obvious. I don't know in how much Elisabetta shared with you what we have done together under Horizon 2020. I think the figure speaks for itself. 1,500 marine research projects, 2.5 billion euros of funding support under Horizon 2020. I think there is here a collective responsibility that we dig back, explore, use better this amazing portfolio of research projects, which has produced knowledge, but again, also very practical solutions, which I think we need to go back to and try to deploy now faster in real life. We have closed Horizon 2020 with the European Green Deal call at the end of last year, 1 billion euros, of which also quite a lot will be dedicated to marine-related research, and in particular, a very significant initial funding for the ocean digital twin, which I think is going to make a major change when completed in giving us the data needed, not just for broad policy purposes, but also to then equip action at local level to ensure that the data can really be also used at country level, at regional level, maybe even at city level, allowing anticipated sea level rise, climate change adaptation, but also dealing with the impact of litter and biodiversity loss on specific coastal areas. The digital twin will, I think, be extremely precious for that. You can be sure, and you know it, I don't need to reassure you, because we worked with some, if not all of you, in preparing Horizon Europe. And Horizon Europe, there will be significant resources still available for ocean and marine research. And you need to, as we prepare work programs, help us to target the right priorities. And then, of course, you need to team up and make yourself available and have a go at proposing consortia research to make these research projects happen and deliver key results. I think there are two specific topics I should underline as I close. The first one is, of course, a work on partnerships. You know that at European Union level, our research effort is the collective effort of 27 research and innovation systems, with a European dimension, which is the Horizon program. But I think where effectively we can really make a difference is when we team up, when we achieve critical mass. And I'm very happy that we have now a partnership, a co-funded partnership on marine research with several member states where national programs are pledging 350 million euros. Horizon Europe will complement with 150 million euros, so that is significant funding. But I think that beyond that funding, it will certainly also allow to align and make marine research much more integrated, complementary, impactful across research carried out in very many member states. So that is really an important step forward, which will no doubt benefit from your engagement and support also the work of the European Marine Board Forum. And I finish with, of course, the Oceans Mission, which is a new way of trying to connect research solutions with delivery in society, designed with actors in society, local actors, particularly we hope also citizens, so that the deployment of these research knowledge and research solution happens faster against the urgency which I set out, but also to ensure that these solutions have ownership of actors, economic actors, political actors, civil society and citizens, and that ownership will come by giving space to design the implementation plans of the missions and the Oceans Mission as well, with all these actors, citizens included. So it's not just about reaching out and communicating, it's effectively for the deployment of the Oceans Mission. It is about finding our champions, partners, interlocutors across our marine sea basins in Europe, and then on the basis of the broad implementation plan, which is now available, then design more specifically the actions in these marine basins. Protected areas will no doubt be part of it. There will also be deep synergies and connections to be found with the other Horizon European missions. So the Soils mission, no doubt, is going to be critically synergetic with the Oceans one. If we have less pesticides, less fertilizers or other types of fertilizers, no doubt that this will have a direct impact on many of our coastal waters. The same goes for climate adaptation. I think the work we will do on oceans will certainly also help regions to be climate resilient and prepare themselves for the impacts of climate change. And we will have, I expect, also have a number of cities aiming at climate neutrality by 2030, which will be coastal port cities. And here again, I think obvious synergies should be explored, and there will be, in the course of 2022, a lot of effort done on that. The Oceans mission is a little bit what you are doing in the board. It's about connecting scientists with actors which deploy science results in society. So be interested, support, interact with the mission. The mission is not just Horizon Europe delivery. It is, of course, anchored in Horizon Europe, and we will ensure that the research which we will fund for the mission Horizon Europe makes a difference. We will also use very much the portfolio of the Horizon 2020 projects to propel the mission, but it also needs to bring all other actors on board. This cannot just be done out of a European program. We don't have the critical mass for that. And so I would also want to encourage all of you, wherever you are, in a research institute, in a university, in industry, to look at the mission and hopefully own the mission objective, and with your own work, team up and contribute to the delivery, which is a very concrete delivery with a target date of 2030, where we hope we can collectively make a difference. Voilà, I finish here by saying that I focused, of course, very much on the European Union's own contribution to this key challenge of protecting, restoring, and dealing with oceans, which will be different oceans against climate change. There is no doubt to be had on that, but we can have a major impact in preserving them and also protecting them, and to an extent us. That requires, of course, work beyond Europe, which is why the work within the UN decade is so precious, which is also why, as I think many of you know, the Commission is working very ambitiously on this All-Atlantic Ocean Forum, where scientists from south to north, east and west, South Africa, Latin America, our US partners, Canada, ourselves in Europe are very much also teaming up in very similar elements to the ones I described for the European Union, and that I think is, of course, critical as well. Voilà. Thank you very much for that opportunity, Sheila. It's a pleasure for me to say these few words. I hope that gives you a sense that the Commission is your partner to bring that research forward and to ensure that the results of that research make a difference. Merci.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think we can give a hand of applause to that. And I think that those were really great words. It was a great way to end the forum. So we are now at the end, I guess. And it's just for me to thank some people. First of all, thank you all who made it into the room. We tried to keep it as COVID safe, so I'm hoping that we all come out of this well at the other end. Thank you to all the online participants and listeners and you know, who had questions and everything. Also, I want to thank all the speakers and panelists who made it here. Thank you, and online. It was a great event. I learned a lot. I always come away from these events with so many ideas in my head, and my team is like, oh no, not that again. So anyway, I want to thank, first of all, before Jean-Eric came on, I was talking about the banners. I want to thank the Artevelde Hogeschool students who have done a great job. They have really pulled it out of the hat really within 2 months since they started their program in September to sort of design something for us. So I want to thank them. I want to thank the photographers that you were seeing in the room as well. I do want to thank the event organizers, the technical staff in the back, and the venue organizers who have been absolutely amazing. I want to thank the Ocean Decade team for endorsing us as an implementing partner. And actually, as Niall was saying, JPI Oceans will also be an implementing partner soon. And we will be working together to help implement the Ocean Decade at the European level. So it won't be two separate entities doing that. I also want to thank, not last but not least, I think it's the last one, the European Marine Board team, because I think you will have seen there's a few of us and we've worked really hard. We've organized this event a few times over by now. And I want to specifically thank Paula, who has really kept on top of all of it and micromanaged it to a position that it worked, I think, amazingly well. I think it was the first hybrid event we've done, and it worked, I think, really well. So thank you for that. A reminder that the videos will be available on YouTube if you want to go back again. And we will publish the proceedings in 2022 sometime, probably, yeah, sometime before the spring. For those of you in the room, please remember to take some of the documents that we have outside if you want. Otherwise, I have to carry them back again. Do have a safe trip home. And for the people in the room, we will have some drinks outside that we can have in a sitting position, I think, as we had our lunches. And I think that's all. Without further ado, I want to thank everybody and close the event.